And I'm delighted to say we're joined live from Multan by Jason Gillespie, Pakistan's Test match coach. Dizzy, there's always great excitement and anticipation before a Test series, and I'm sure that hasn't changed for you. But there is a kind of added weight of expectation, isn't there, on Pakistan now? Haven't won a game in the last 10, and there's a. I mean, there's always pressure before a Test series, but is this one weighing a bit heavily?
I wouldn't say it's weighing heavily, Manners, and thanks for the invite and to come on here. G'day, Harmy. Look, the weight's maybe not the word. There's always expectation, isn't there, with Test cricket, with international cricket. So there's always expectation. I think coming into a new role like this and being part of a country of 250 million people where everyone is a Pakistan cricket supporter in a country that cricket is the sport, there is the expectation that the team will do well. And, we're obviously striving to do that. And started my time starting a little bit shaky, so to speak, with the loss to Bangladesh. But we certainly learned some lessons and we're going to be better for the experience. And I think we're just excited to host England, to be perfectly honest. It's a great series to be part of. I'm really looking forward to it. Having been involved in series against England as a player, it's just as exciting being a coach.
Izzy, as a player, you played for one of the greatest teams of all time. So the pressure of that every single time you go out to play was huge for about 10 years. You're now coaching a country, like you mentioned, 250 million people. The pressure on that is enormous. The confidence levels are really low. I think that's evident for everybody to see. The amount of defeats that Pakistan have had in recent times, just lost to Bangladesh. But how do you go as a coach, putting your arm around players and trying to just build their confidence? Because you can't turn it on like a tap. It's not going to fly up through the roof overnight. How do you do that as a coach, slowly but surely, just making them believe that they're getting better during the time that you're going to be there?
Yeah, Harmy, that's a great question. And I suppose we've started that process with at the selection table. We had 2 losses against Bangladesh, and basically our squad hasn't really changed. We've looked to bolster our. We've added a spinner into the squad, and we've had an injury to a player. So they're the only changes, and they're bringing a spinner into the 15-man squad. Was purely to give us flexibility with our options. So, by and large, we've backed and supported at the selection table the guys that played, and that probably hasn't happened a lot in Pakistan cricket, particularly after a couple of defeats. And I think from my perspective, I was very keen coming into this role. I'm very keen to show my backing and faith and support of the lads. Obviously, if there's an extended period of time where performances aren't where we'd like them to be, then look, obviously selection discussions happen. But I was very keen, having just got into the role. I've been in the role for 2 Test matches. I don't think that's a big enough sample size to be able to start making sweeping decisions and changing the whole fabric of the side, because I think we've got the makings of a very good team. Yes, we've got work to do. We're very understanding of that. But I think by putting the arm around the players, showing them that I care and wanting them to, perform really strongly for Pakistan, we've done that at the selection table.
Dizzy, I was reading that you recently had a clear the air morale building camp with Gary Kirsten as well, and all of the players. Obviously, I mean, I don't know if you know, I was very good friends with Bob Woolmer and Mickey Arthur, and they both spoke about the fact that there were always people in Pakistan cricket, not necessarily within the squad, administrators who weren't always pulling in the right direction. And how did that go? Obviously, it was private, but I saw photographs, so I presume it did actually happen. And there,
but assure you, it did happen.
Okay, was that was some important work done there?
Yeah, so look, there was a lot of speculation about what the connection camp was. Was it naming? Was it deciding who was going to skipper the teams in various formats? Was there going to be sweeping changes? And it was, for us, it was very simple. From Gary Kirsten's and my perspective, being new to Pakistan cricket, we wanted to listen and learn and understand a bit more about Pakistan cricket. So we got all the key stakeholders in Pakistan cricket, players being one of them. So we had 9 players there. We had a varying spectrum of experienced players and lesser experienced players to get a broad view of things, Pakistan cricket from a player's perspective. And then we just had some of the administrators, the people that work at the PCB, some of the higher ups, and the coaches, and people that worked in the media department at Pakistan cricket. And it was just about, and it was literally about connecting. It was called the Connection Camp. It was about just getting together, sharing ideas, I suppose sharing each other's stories about, so one example, some of the people in the PCB in the office were just sharing what their day-to-day work day looked like. Because the players probably didn't really understand. They just know these people just work at the PCB and, they work and we play. And it was sharing experiences, really. So the players then shared what a day in their life was like. And it was about, we also spoke about aligning messaging that comes out of the PCB, so that the players, so that the PCB, all the coaches, all the words, we've got a, I suppose, a united voice and putting out good positive messages out about Pakistan cricket and what we're trying to achieve. We know that there's challenges, and these are the steps we're taking to address various issues and things we want to improve and get better. But a lot of it was, Gary and I took a bit of a back seat once we got all the players together in a room, and we just had conversations. We had David Reed, sports psychologist and coach, who was there, who drove our conversation with the players. But Gary and I were just listening, learning, and trying to understand and this big landscape that is Pakistan cricket, and we're learning all the time, and each day, we're learning something new every day, which is great. So that was, in a nutshell. I hope I've explained that, man. That's kind of what we wanted to do. Just everyone connect and share experiences.
Dizzy, one of the big challenges you've got on the horizon, you've got England coming, Ben Stokes' team. Yep. They're coming hard. No matter which direction you try and contain them at, they don't hide for the way they play. Are you ready for them? Are you looking forward to it? Have you spoke to anybody in Australia who had mixed success against England in the Ashes in the recent past? But there's one thing for sure: Ben Stokes' team for 3 Test matches will come hard.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think everyone's left in no doubt how England play their cricket, and that provides us with a challenge, no doubt, but it also presents us with opportunities. We know how England play, and let's talk about their batting. We know they look to be very aggressive. There's the term of phrase that they call a Baz ball. I don't think that's, you probably know better than me, Harmy, I don't think that's actually used in the England dressing room, but no. It just, from the outside, it just looks like it's just their philosophy is just looking to take the game on. And if you think you can take the bowlers on, then you have the freedom to do that. That's how it looks like from the outside. We understand that. We've been doing our research, doing our planning on how we can counter that. And we're excited by that challenge and opportunity, because we think there are opportunities to have an impact against England. We think we match up well against England. We're also very aware that they're a very good side and they've been playing some really good cricket. So the challenge is there. We know that we're the underdogs. Everyone's writing Pakistan off, and everyone's looking at the glass half empty mentality with Pakistan cricket. And look, we understand that. That's how the media works. But within our camp, the opposite is true. We see this as a great challenge, but a great opportunity to show what we can do. And we know this England side's good, but we also know that there is some inexperience there as well. And if that's something that we can exploit, but them being ultra aggressive is something that we can exploit, then we'll certainly go down that path.
Two key players, obviously, Babar Azam and Shaheen Afridi. And you can relate to both of them, of course, being a double centurion yourself. I'm sure you can help Babar through his slump in form. But Shaheen Afridi, I mean, relationships are so important, aren't they? I mean, Gary Kirsten said a couple of weeks ago that he was concerned about workload management, and Afridi himself last week said that he didn't think that was an issue, and Waqar and Wasim bowled hundreds and hundreds of overs in their prime. Are the relationships with those two players that you have formed or are forming going to be key to this series?
Yeah, look, we're developing strong relationships with those guys. They're fantastic people, wonderful players, as you mentioned. And look, I saw Gary's comments because we've spoken about it a lot. As a country where there's two different head coaches for formats, it's really important that our relationship is strong and we're moving in the same direction. As Test coach, I'm well aware that there's a lot of white ball cricket at the back end of the year, November, December, and then January going into a Champions Trophy, which is in Pakistan, which is a massive thing for Pakistan cricket and massive thing for this country. So I'm well aware that with a lot of that white ball cricket and a lot of our all format players, of which Shaheen Afridi, Babar Azam fall into that category, we need to manage them. And whether we need to manage them in white ball cricket or we need to manage them in red ball cricket, then we're both open to doing that. And we just have to have open adult conversations because ultimately Gary and our goal is the best interests of Pakistan cricket, the best interests of our players at heart. And if it means we have to rest players from time to time, particularly our all format players, then we will do that, regardless of the format. If we think it's in the best interest of the team and the best interest of the individual, we will do that. Look, Shaheen's comments. Shaheen does everything at 100%. That's what I've learned about him. He charges in, he charges around the field, he bats aggressively. Everything about him is 100 miles an hour, and because he just loves playing cricket. He loves playing for Pakistan so much, and we just need to make sure that he didn't play the second test against Bangladesh, and there was I suppose it was the start of my tenure here in Pakistan. I probably learned a valuable coaching man management lesson with Shaheen very early because his wife was due with their firstborn child midway through the first test against Bangladesh, and all my instincts were telling me that I should be strongly encouraging Shaheen to go and spend time with his family at this point in time because for me that's really important. He was insistent that he was keen to play. He was desperate to play. It'll be okay. Baby will come after the game, all this sort of stuff. So we were chatting away. It was just niggling away at the back of my mind that maybe I should be looking after our player here. And then, as it so turns out, baby was born halfway through the test match. And so in the end, and yeah, there was some cricket stuff that, we wanted to see some progression in and that, but ultimately, I made the call that I thought it was in his best interest to go and spend some time with his wife and newborn son. So that's one example. That was a good lesson for me, and to trust my instincts a little bit more, I suppose. But certainly, looking after our players in that space for me is going to be very important going forward.
And what you're expecting, yeah, I agree. I mean, Dizzy, I always use you an example about your man management skills. I only played for you briefly at Yorkshire, but I talk about Liam Plunkett. Liam Plunkett, he wasn't a lost soul, but he was somebody who was struggling with his action, just like you've just just exactly as you've described Shaheen Afridi. He was all over the place mentally a little bit. He wanted to be in at everything, red ball, white ball, wanted to bat high, wanted to bowl as fast as he could. It was all over the place. His numbers were getting higher. And then all of a sudden, the human element, your human element was the part of it, I think, which helped Liam more than anything else. So is that the area where you think, you know what, connecting with Shaheen Afridi? Because I think the reason why we ask about Babar Azam and Shaheen Afridi, because they're global superstars. They are, if they do well, Pakistan do well. Is it the human element that you think is probably what's needed at this moment for him to get back on track? Because the talent is obviously there for all to see.
Harmy, you bang on. I think it's crucial for all our players, not just the guys you mentioned. I think it's critical. These guys play all formats. They're in demand around the world with the leagues, and Gary and I are having constant conversations about how do we balance this out, because we're the Pakistan coaches and we want our players playing as much as they can for Pakistan, but we also want them to have life experiences in terms of cricketing experiences, learning from other coaches, from other players in different leagues around the world in different environments. So we find that balancing act, and we've also got to make sure that these guys have lives away from the sport as well, and with the example I mentioned with Shaheen. So we need to put all that together and again, just have open and honest conversations with everyone involved, because ultimately we want what's best for Pakistan. We want what's best for the individual players. And so I'll be doing everything I can. I think your point about that human element, I mean, we're all humans. We've all got stuff going on that people may not necessarily see or hear about. But that's why, I think always having that mindset of being kind, is got to be at the forefront of your thinking, because, we can't walk in other people's shoes. We can try and empathise as much as we can, but until you have those conversations and just that honesty, and it comes from a good place. We're just here to help. We're here to help you be the best player you can possibly be, and give you the platform in which to do that. And so it's just comes down to communication in the end, Harmy.
We've been asked to ask you about the Border Gavaskar Trophy, but maybe I'll let Harmy ask you about that. Just one question, because I've got a burning question. Incredible coaching CV, really. I mean, from Adelaide Strikers to Sussex to Yorkshire to, was it the Mountaineers in Zimbabwe?
I was with the Midwest Rhinos.
Midwest Rhinos.
Based in Kwekwe, beautiful little town in the Midlands there. Wonderful place. I had a wonderful experience in Zimbabwe. I always talk highly of it. It's just the most remarkable place. I absolutely loved it.
Such a great town. They named it twice, Kwekwe. This must be, I'm assuming this must be a greater challenge than all of the other coaching roles that you've taken up. Somebody said to me that somebody you and I both know, I'll tell you off air, that Gillespie's a great manager and a wonderful, kind person. He may be too much of that for Pakistan, which I thought was maybe a little bit offensive.
If being kind is seen as a negative, well, I'm guilty as charged. I don't think you can be too kind to people. I think you've got to. I think the key is, part of being kind is being really honest with players and staff. So yeah, I'm probably guilty as charged, Manners. I personally don't see it as a negative, but others can. That's fine.
No, it's definitely not a negative in my experience around you, Diz. One quick last one on the series. What are you expecting in Multan and in Rawalpindi? And then, I'm doing manners here. 2 questions in one. The Boris Gavaskar Trophy coming up. What are you expecting from the India Australia series? And the balance of the sides always talked about in Australia, and Steve Smith opening the bat. And where does Cameron Green fit in? I know it's not your worry, but I'm sure as a proud Aussie, you'd be desperately wanting your countrymen to be India.
Yeah, for sure. Just a circle back to your first question about our series here. Multan, this is my first time in Multan. New experience, wonderful facility. We just trained there today. It's a fantastic cricket ground. Got a good coverage of grass on the surface. So we'll see what happens there. But it's a great field, and I think the surface will promote some really good cricket. So I think both teams have to play on it, and I think for us, there's been a lot of talk about conditions, surfaces, where we play, all this sort of stuff. I keep coming back. We've just got to play better. That's the bare facts. We can talk about surfaces. We can talk about this, that, the other. We just need to play better, and we need to put our energy into what allows that to happen. So that's where we are with this series. We're excited about the series. To have a big country like England come out here to Pakistan for a 3-test tour is huge for Pakistan cricket. So we're really energised, really excited, and looking forward to it. Looking ahead to the Border Gavaskar Trophy, always a hard-fought one between Australia and India. I'll always say in Australia, even though in India won last time, in Australia, it's a hard place to win in Australia. And I think as a general rule in world cricket, to win away from home, poses its challenges. But I think if anyone's going to challenge Australia, it is India in Australia. India, well-balanced side. They're confident. They're up and about. I'll still back the Aussies in, but it'll be a very tight series. Your question about Steve Smith, about where the batting order fits in, it just from afar, it just seems all the dialogue is that Steve Smith may move back into the middle order, whether it be at 3 or 4. Most likely back at 4. I don't think I think they'll want to minimise the disruption of that batting order as much as they can. So, I just wonder whether on the back of Travis Head's blistering form at the top of the order in white ball cricket, whether they just decide, let's see what Trav can do at the top of the order. Even though he's been so successful at 5, I think that allows Marnus Labuschagne to stay at 3. It keeps Usman at the top, Steve Smith at 4. Then they can play the 2 all-rounders in Green and Mitch Marsh at 5 and 6 with Carey at 7. So I suspect if I was to guess which way they go, I would suspect that would be the way the Australians go.
And finally, for me, I'm going to cover my back here. I've experienced more kindness and generosity in Pakistan than almost every other cricket country that I've ever been to. And I think the point the person was making was that Pakistan cricket is different to Pakistan, but it's a wonderful country. And I know that you'll be a success, Dizzy. You're enjoying it, aren't you?
Yeah, man. Look, I really am. It's certainly something different. It is a real challenge. There's no doubt about that. It's a good challenge, but it's something. Look, I went in eyes wide open with. I was still contracted to the Adelaide Strikers in South Australia, and and I was fully committed to seeing out those contracts and seeing where I was after that. But then this opportunity presented itself, so I applied, managed to secure the role, which was great, and I've gone into it eyes wide open. I know there's been a lot of upheaval. There's been changes in chairmen, there's been changes in selectors, there's been changes in coaches, there's been a high turnover, there's been a lot of instability, and I've keep coming back to, if we can just develop some consistency off the field, there's a chance, it gives us the best chance of having some more consistency on the field. So that's been my focus, is being a consistent person as well, in my demeanour and everything that goes on. We just develop consistent training routines, consistent plans, having consistent process in leading up to games, consistent training, and consistency with selection. If we can just build these things in to Pakistan cricket and show everyone that, one, we care, and two, we're giving this our best, then I think that gives us the best chance of having some success.
And finally, from me, Des, I wish you all the very best, even against England, because you're a wonderful human being. You are an unbelievable man, both on and off the field. An absolute gentleman, both on and off the field. I wish you well with Pakistan. Was the job with my sort of recollection of you at Yorkshire and at Sussex? There was a lot of upheaval from a family point of view. But does this job feel more because I know England have gone to one all format coach? You can refresh yourself by getting back to Australia, back to that wonderful family you've got, and then giving the Pakistan guys everything you've possibly got.
Yeah, Harmy, to be perfectly honest, one of the attractions of the role was it is one format of the game. Just being able to focus solely on Test cricket. It does give me that flexibility in terms of the balance between home life and travelling. I haven't travelled internationally much in the last, basically, since I started coaching, I haven't travelled as much as I did as a player because I've been in domestic cricket. So haven't done the travel that international cricket entails. But part of the attraction of this role, and part of the attraction of this role for Gary as well in the white ball space, was that we did get that really important time at home with our families. So when we're here to work and work with the boys and help them get better and play some good cricket. But then for me, when the white ball teams are travelling, I get the opportunity to spend some time with my family back in Adelaide. So that's great. That's where it is. That was part of the attraction to the role, and obviously being involved in international cricket, is fantastic. Sorry, my phone's ringing in my room here. I don't know who's ringing. A bit weird.
Well,
your laundry's ready.
I reckon it might be, actually.
Room service. Jason, you've been incredibly generous with your time, and we thank you. And I echo Harmy's sentiments. Very, very best of luck. A strong Pakistan team is good for world cricket. So I hope it's a cracking series. Thank you for your time. Massively appreciated.
Thank you so much, guys, for all the kind words. And Harmy, I'll slip you that £100 for those really kind words that you did, mate. So thank you.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.